Notice how it mentions in today's gospel reading that the unclean spirits, basically the demonic spirits, when they see Jesus, they fall down, basically in adoration, and they shout or proclaim loudly, "You are the Son of God." Now we might think, well, the demonic spirits, they're from a different realm. They're spiritual beings, purely spiritual beings. Wouldn't it be beneficial to have their testimony also to indicate to people that Jesus is indeed the Son of God? In other words, they are proclaiming the truth. So why is it that our Lord sternly ordered them not to make him known? In other words, he tells them to be quiet. And this happens on a number of occasions in the scriptures. And the reason is that even though they proclaim the truth, God does not want us to be listening to demons. God does not want us to be following what demons reveal to us. And this is very important, for example, when it comes to various apparitions. So when it comes to apparitions, the angelic beings can manifest themselves in a physical way and appear to us. Now, of course, the demons are not going to appear looking hideous with horns. They're going to appear like the Blessed Virgin Mary, or like our Lord. But it's a deception, of course. And they're not going to tell us to do evil things, because then clearly we would recognize that they are evil spirits. So they're going to tell us to do good things. Pray the rosary, go to church every Sunday, fast, all these good things. But you see, they will give us 99% good, but once they see that we trust them and abide by their directions, then with the little 1% of falsehood, they slowly lead us astray. And it's a gradual process of rebellion against teaching authority of the church and all these things. So they get us to eventually abandon the true ways and to adopt false ways. So this is why it's so important that we have the church approve various apparitions. And the church is very careful. They do a lot of investigations. In the case of Fatima, the miracle of the sun witnessed by 70,000 people, some people even 30 miles away from the place of the actual site of the miracle. All of these things confirm that it's true, and yet the church, I believe it took 13 years or maybe even more before the church actually approved the apparitions of Fatima. So just something to be aware of and cautious of. So, sometimes the exorcist will, tell the demons to reveal the truth in the name of God. That's different because they need to know things, but ideally we shouldn't be listening to demons. And when it comes to apparitions, sometimes when there's some doubt, the advice that I give is, when in doubt, do without. When there is an apparition that the church has not approved and people still talk about it, and it's clear that the church has rejected it, that's clearly wrong. You're following a wrong message. You shouldn't follow it. So something to keep in mind. I did want to touch on today's first reading also from the first book of Samuel. So David and Saul and the armies are returning home, and as we see, the women are praising Saul and especially David. So they say, "Oh, Saul has killed his thousands, but David his 10,000s." Now this is just after David has slain Goliath, the great giant, the giant of a man. And so he didn't actually kill 10,000s of Philistines, but the women are kind of exaggerating that, David is such a great warrior, he's able to fight even someone as great as Goliath. And so they're kind of exaggerating, they're praising him. And the ideal is that Saul is pleased with the fact that the women are praising David, because David helped Saul to escape the Philistines and basically killed this great enemy of that, the Philistines had, who was such a powerful individual, Goliath. So Saul becomes jealous or envious. And if you recall, envy is one of the 7 deadly sins. And the 7 deadly sins are not moral sins in and of themselves. But if we don't check those seven deadly sins. In other words, if we don't make the effort to overcome them, it could lead to a mortal sin. And we see this especially in regards to the situation with Saul. He actually wants to kill David. And, Jonathan speaks to him and says, oh, he's a good man, he's helping you, he's not trying to take over your kingdom. Now, it is true that David has been anointed by Samuel and it will eventually become king, but David has tremendous respect for Saul as long as he is the king and doesn't do anything to harm him, and we will see this later. But Saul wants to kill him, and he even speaks openly about this. So Jonathan, Saul's son, warns David and speaks to his father. And notice how Saul, he basically commits to the fact that, he will not lay a hand on him. He swears that, as the Lord lives, he shall not be put to death. But Saul will go back on his word. So we see how Saul has been disobedient to God. He's going to be disobedient even to his own vow. And on more than one occasion, Saul is going to try to kill David. So terrible, terrible thing. Now, sometimes when it comes to talking about envy and jealousy, sometimes we use the terms interchangeably. They are very similar in many ways. But if we are more, particular, there is actually a difference. So envy is when you desire the good that someone has. And whenever you're jealous, there's also an element of envy. However, not when you're envious, it doesn't necessarily mean that you're jealous also. So jealousy pertains to trying to preserve something that you have, worried that you might lose it. And usually with jealousy, there's a third party. So with envy, it's you envying someone else. So two parties. With jealousy, the typical example, and it usually applies to relationships, a married man, his wife is maybe giving too much attention to some man at a party or whatever, and so the husband becomes jealous. So there's a third party, him, his wife, and the man that the wife is speaking to. So he's jealous that his wife is speaking to him, and he's worried that he's going to lose his wife. He's worried that he's going to lose the affection of his wife. He's envious of the fact that his wife is giving him so much attention. He wishes that she would give that to him also. So there is a difference between envy and jealousy. Whenever there is jealousy, envy is also present. And when people are envious, they become sad because they see the good that someone else has and they pity themselves. Oh, I don't have that good. I wish that I would have it. And this self-pity, which is the result of our pride, can be so extensive, so great, that it could actually cause a person to hate the person they're envious of, and even to the point of wanting to kill that person. Well, I despise that person because every time I see him, he reminds me of the things I don't have, and I just want him out of my life. And this is especially true with jealousy. The husband wants to kill the man that his wife is paying attention to. So we see this situation in the case of King Saul. So is Saul envious or jealous? He's both. He's jealous and envious of David. And so we need to be on guard against jealousy, but also against envy. And we need to trust in God and not to cling to the things of this world, not to desire the things of this world. Rather, we should desire the things of God, the good things of God.